Okay, this is the third video and I'm continuing on. We are still on Ruth 3, okay, the beginning of Ruth 3. So in the last video, Naomi had just finished giving instructions to Ruth for this plan of meeting Boaz secretively or covertly on in the threshing floor. And it ended with, everything that Naomi said, Ruth's agreed to do. Okay, and this is what happens next, verse 6. Okay, so of course, Vatayred Hagoren. So she went down to the threshing floor, right? And notice as soon as her mother-in-law instructs her, right, Ruth does exactly what she asked, right? And this is in part because, as we'll talk about later, Ruth is really almost envisioned as the ideal woman, this kind of perfect, wise woman. Okay. And of course, along with that, this was traditional society. So the perfect woman is what? Very obedient, especially to her mother-in-law, I guess. Okay. So Vatayred Hagoren. So she went down to the threshing floor, right? Vata'as kakol asher sivata hamota. And she did, right? Everything that Sivata commanded her mother-in-law. Okay, and of course this from Sade Vav Hey Sava. This is a PL. How do you know? It sounds like a PL, P-E. Okay, all also has a doubling of the second consonant. Okay, your classic PL. Okay, this is a PL. Perfect. Okay, third feminine singular. Okay, from Sade Vav Hey. So everything she said, she listened to. Okay, so she immediately goes to work. Okay, again, she is, as I will talk about later, really this embodiment of the Eshet Hayil, the woman of strength, a woman of valor. Okay, so then going onwards, verse 7, Vayokal. Okay, and now in the meantime, while she's like doing everything that her mother-in-law asked her to do, sorry, putting my coat on my lap because I'm cold. Okay, Vayokal Boaz, Vayesht. Vayitav libo. Okay, and so in the meantime, what's Boaz up to? Boaz, well, he ate. Akal. Okay, Boaz ate. And notice akal kind of sounds like the sounds you make when you swallow. Okay, akal. Okay, whatever. Especially if we were still pronouncing the olive, the gutturals, right? It sounds like swallowing stuff. Okay. Of course, I always think every Hebrew word sounds like what it means now. Okay, so I don't know. So Boaz ate and yesht, he drank from shin tav hey shata, to drink. Okay, so he ate and drank. It's like, yeah, he's not drinking water here, folks. Okay, he's because what we're told is he ate and he drank and he made good his heart, and his heart was good, right? I mean, and your heart does not become good by drinking water or tea, maybe coffee. He's drinking beer. Okay, probably here. He's getting drunk. Okay, and that should kind of be, make signals go off in your head, because where else have we seen drinking? Nighttime, being good in one's heart, feeling good because they are getting drunk. It usually signifies that something sexually awry, a lot of times things go, that something sexual is going to happen, and not only something sexual, but sometimes something sexually improper. Right, this is a big signal that's going to happen. So, for example, you see this in a whole lot of other stories with Jacob. Right, he drinks, right, for his first marriage party, probably, and in the middle of the night, he sleeps with who he thinks is his bride, i.e., Rachel, and in the morning it happens to be Leah. Okay. Also, right, Lot, right, he gets drunk, and what happens? Oh, his daughter-in-laws probably aim, payback for his threat to throw them out to the strangers. Instead, when Lot gets their father Lot drunk and successfully sleep with him, which results in what? The birth of two progenitors named Ammon and Moab, right? So this is a little wink back at Ruth's progenitors, her ancestors, right, which seems to be, at least from the Israelite perspective, also a source of joking, right? So it's interesting that they made Ruth, who is a good Moabite, at least you know, from everything that I can tell in this text, you know, that she's kind of replaying, though not as illicitly, some of the illicit sexual actions done by her ancestors. Okay. Also, I mean, I can go on. You see the same thing with Noah. Noah gets, you know, first builder of the first planter of the first vineyard gets drunk. Something illicit, probably sexual, happens with his son Ham, for which he curses Canaan. Also in Judges 19 and verse through 21, where you have the rape of the concubine, there too we are told there's lots of drinking that's happening, in particular with the Levite and the father-in-law, right? The father of the concubine, of course, we know that that's a terrible story, which results with the concubine being in this kind of replay Sodom and Gomorrah, raped by these men that also show up to the house, okay? Anywho, this is a long way of saying that when you see the words drink and especially merry of heart, right? You know, you almost, that there's some hints here that this is a code word, that something maybe sexual and not sexually, I don't want to say okay, but let's say sexually outside the norm, okay, is going to probably happen, okay? Especially interesting is Tav, you know, make merry one's heart, okay? And the heart is very interesting, right? It, of course, is not just about your feeling, right? Your heart, but also the heart is, you know, as it states, you know, circumcise your heart. Well, they're not saying like, you know, only take care of your feelings. The heart was really where you made at points moral decisions, right? And so you do wonder whether this phrase, you know, to eat and to drink and to make merry one's heart also means that they're kind of drunk. They're not making the best decisions. Okay, they're impaired. Okay, okay, so going onward, so he's eaten and drunk. Okay, and then okay, now what does he do next? Vayavo lishkav bikse ha'arema. Okay, and he came. Okay, so now he's eaten, is drunk, kind of, and he comes to lie down, right? And it says at the edge of and this is the word aram, at the edge of the heap. Okay, and it's like probably whatever they've just winnowed. Okay, now this can aram, right? This can mean to heap up. Okay, so again, there may be kind of fertility imagery here. Remember, Boaz would heap up food. Okay, when he's like passing her, like he would heap up food for her. Okay, so again, hint at the fertility imagery, fertility of Boaz, right? It's also has a kind of, again, secondary meaning. There's lots of wordplay, right? Our room, okay? It can also mean crafty or cunning. And this is the same word, right? Which is not negative in the Hebrew Bible, right? Used to describe the serpent again in Genesis 2. There's a lot of Genesis references, okay? Remember that the serpent is described as crafty is usually how it's translated, but that's not quite right, right? I mean, it can be. He's tricky, right? He's cunning. He's arum, right? And remember that the serpent himself, right, is associated with what knowledge, i.e., sexual knowledge, right? He's the one that says, "Hey, have you seen that tree over there?" Right? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? Also, the serpent is a phallic symbol, right? Along, you know. So again, there's kind of heightened fertility imagery and language here. Okay, it could also maybe insinuate, like I said, being a room or being cunning or crafty, right? Intelligent, really. This is not negative in the Hebrew Bible. This is really a reinterpretation of the Genesis myth by later the Christian fathers, right, who turned the serpent into the devil, right? Arum is actually a word used to describe God, right? God is cunning, right? God is intelligent, right? And it may also point to you know, either two things, right? Naomi and Ruth as being cunning and crafty, right? And of course, these are good traits in the Near East, right? Where you have to be, you know, cunning and crafty to survive, right? They know how to use their knowledge to survive, right? It can also speak to the cunning and crafty God behind these two women, right? Who is seemingly using Boaz, right? So the kind of cunningness or the cleverness, right, which is emphasized here, may point to these clever women or point to, people who are marginalized like these widows, right? As well as the cunning or crafty or intelligent God who acts behind the marginalized, these widows, for their benefit, right? The kind of cunning mind behind those who are oppressed, okay? Um, Okay, so he falls asleep at the edge of the heap, right? Vatavo balat, right? And she came. Now she's she's gonna put her plan into action. So she came balat. Balat to me always has like tippy toes, kind of like balat, quietly, has that kind of sense to it, right? Little by little. Okay, it almost is that kind of feeling, right? So she came very quietly, right? And Tagal, Margalotav, Batishkov. And she uncovered from his feet, okay, whatever. And of course, if this was, you could say, well, if this was a genitalia, how does he not recognize this? How drunk is he? What's it exactly saying? And I will say, I think the text is deliberately vague, right? It wants to insinuate, but it never tells you, right? It gives you these interpretive possibilities, right? But it never tells you necessarily which direction you should take, right? And again, it depends, right, on your context, right? If you're reading this for a children's Bible study, like play down, interpret differently, play down the sexuality, right? If you're telling campfire stories, play up the sexuality. And so there's reasons for the unclarity or the ambiguity of the text, right? So she revealed from his feet, whatever, okay? And she lied down, okay? Okay. Now this word shakab that you see, that I've greened for you here and also earlier, here, it's all over the place, right? And like I said, like everything in this passage, everything has a kind of double entendre. Okay. Big surprise, right? Shakav, it literally means to lie down, to rest, to sleep, and but of course it also has a sexual meaning, to sleep with. Okay. Um, so for example, it's a euphemism to sleep with someone. This word shokevet, which is a participle, feminine participle, can mean a lying down, but also an emission of seed. Okay, so these are, when Naomi is telling her to go lie down, go lie down, there may be two directions there, two commands there. It could be read as both just lie down, okay, or it could be to sleep with him. Okay, so it's unclear exactly, or maybe she's saying both, right? To lie down and sleep with him if necessary. Okay. To lie down can also, aside from meanings of sexuality, can of course be placed together with, you're asleep like you're the dead. Okay. And of course, this would fit well with the themes or the ideas and the imagery that we've seen in Ruth, right? This need for rest, right, which is what sleep is centered on, right? This, Ruth and Naomi need to find a resting place, a place where they can sleep, be in peace, be in security, right? So there's this rest and sleep idea, okay? There's also this lie down and sexuality idea, right? And the way that you're going to do that as a woman, especially a widow in this society, is to remarry, right? And come under the protection of a man, okay, and have their children, okay, or sons, really. And there's also, this other kind of simultaneous emphasis on kind of life and death, right? Remember the whole story, right? If sleeping is a euphemism for to die, right? Remember, this whole tale begins with a series of deaths that occur in Naomi's family, so much so that her family is nearly cut off. So notice then, this word shakav has all these kind of hints or meanings, right? Referring to Naomi's desire, and maybe Ruth's desire for a resting place, a home for Ruth, how this is entangled with sexuality, to lie with, right? And also levirate marriage, which is for the benefit of the dead, as it states, so that the name of the dead may not disappear. Okay, so that, this word shakav holds a lot, okay, or insinuates or plays with the various themes that we see in Ruth. Okay, so she does what she's asked, okay, and now again questions about how is asleep and how dead to the world and how drunk is he, but whatever. Okay, Vayahi, verse 8, Vayahi bahatsi halayla. Now it was the middle of the night, okay, and night is a place of danger, right? Because of course this is a society before electricity where everything was very dark, right? So usually weird things happen in the night. Also, if you look at Judges 19:21, it's a time of danger, i.e. sexually dangerous things can happen in the night. So really it can go either way. Remember that Jacob's wrestling match with an angel, with Esau, I mean, who knows, right? With his wrestling partner happens at night, okay? And so, okay, so so it was in the middle of the night, okay? And now this weird thing, okay? Heret ha'ish va yila fate. Okay, and he this heret means to kind of shake, be frightened, and it's not just like, oh my god, I dropped my cup, now I'm scared that I shattered my cup. It's not that kind of fear. It's a kind of a deeper kind of, it's like a terror. It has this kind of shaking. It's a holy terror. Okay, and of course the reason why they may have this here, or the writers have this kind of holy fear sense, might be again to insinuate that really behind all of this is God, right? What makes him wake up in the middle of the night, okay, and discover the identity of his sleeping partner? Perhaps it's God, right? Whose plan Naomi recognizes and whom Naomi works to have unfold. Okay, it goes on, right? So it was in the middle of the night, and the man became frightened, and he, right, turned this also lamed pay. Tet is also a very, very, very interesting word. It can mean to turn, like I said, which is how it's usually translated. It's not a word that's used very often. It can mean to clasp or embrace. So, are we to think that he kind of turned and he realizes he was like spooning somebody? And he's like, oh my God, wait a second. I don't know what's going on here. I went to bed alone, I thought, right? Is that, that seems to also be kind of insinuated here with the kind of, lame pe ta, meaning to clasp or to embrace, okay? I do wonder myself personally whether lafat is also we're playing with the word for glean, to glean or to kind of gather, right? Which is lakat, okay? But I don't know. Okay, whatever. So you can go with, and the man became frightened and he turned. Okay, or he embraced, right? Okay, however you want to translate that. Vahine again, right? This kind of focalization, and holy cow, or you can go with behold, I guess, or oh my God, a woman. Okay, I mean, you do need exclamation points. That would be the proper translation. And shit, a woman, okay, was lying shokevet, right? Repetition of shokav again, at his feet, from his feet again, right? How do you take the feet to mean? Like literally, was she like at the foot of the bed, like a little cat or a little dog? I don't know. Okay. Or is this a euphemism? Okay, where is she sleeping exactly? And why does it take so long for Boaz to recognize this? Okay, well, whatever. Going onwards. Okay. Vayomer mi at. Okay. And he said, who are you? Okay, it's great. Okay. Evatomer Anoki Ruth Amateha. Okay. And she said, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Okay. And this Amateha, some do wonder whether she was saying that she was willing to become his concubine. Of course, Ruth is in a very, very, very precarious situation. So it's unclear what exactly she means, right? Maybe she's trying to remind him of remember, I'm Ruth, right? Your maidservant. Remember the maidservant, i.e. your servants whom you treated me like, right? So she's trying to remind him of where their connection is. Okay, maybe back to the harvest, right, where she was allowed to glean. Okay. Um, of course, as people have noted, right, Ruth kind of goes off, right, veers from the direction that Naomi has given her, right? She's really winging it at this point, okay? Because, you know, um, uh, you know, things are not quite going right. I mean, what Naomi said was, oh, when he discovers who you are, well, he's going to tell you what to do. Well, no, I mean, he's not telling her what to do because he is so freaking shocked that he's, it's really now Ruth kind of taking matters into her own hands. Okay, so she said, I am Ruth, your maidservant. U parashta kana fecha al amatha. Okay, and she says, spread your, and now this could be your wings or the edge of your cloak. Okay, really, spread your you know uh you know uh, your skirt, the skirt of your, okay, blanket maybe. Okay, spread your wings. I like wings better myself. Spread your wings over your maidservant. Okay, key, because goal, a redeemer, atal, because you are redeemer. Okay, and this phrase, parasht kanafecha, right? Spread your wings, right, or spread your wings over me. Remember that this refers to what Boaz said to Ruth as a kind of blessing earlier in Ruth 2:12, right? Where he says, may you find kind of peace, may you find this blessing, right? From the Lord, under whose wings, right, you have come under, right? And notice in kind of her repeating that, right, and what the text is doing is that it's paralleling, as it has from the very beginning, right, paralleling Boaz and God's plan, right? Boaz is the means, though he may not recognize it, the means by which God will work out his blessing. Okay, and again, this makes sense, right? Because of course, Boaz, there's a kind of messianic element eventually, right? With what David becomes, because of course, Boaz is the line from which David will emerge, okay? The line through which God will work out his plan. I mean, that's very much there. Okay. Again, notice the gala, the word, the wordplay on to reveal, which is linked with both the possibility of rejection or exile, right? But also Gaal, right? The possibility of redemption. In this case, of course, she's referring to levirate marriage. Okay. Okay, so please go on to the last and final video.